Hello everyone, my name is George and today's password is pretzel. How many of you have actually been bombarded with donation requests from different charities the last few months? I know I have. Every year during the holidays, we're all bombarded with donation requests, whether that's on television, asking for donations for different organizations, or at the local supermarket, grocery store, asking for small donations for different organizations. And that's fine. Every year, however, we all bombarded by those. The problem that we see is not necessarily giving to those donations. Not a lot of people do too much research into it. We live in a world where a lot of us do more research into the next iPhone or perhaps your next car, but we don't really do research into the organizations that we are donating to. Why is that? Is it because we don't really care? Or is it because we rather just give the money and whatever happens to it, it doesn't matter. As long as we give something, we feel good about ourselves. That could be a bit problematic at some point. Sometimes. With that being said, deciding on a charitable donation or charitable organization does not have to be a very difficult chain of events. It could be actually very simple. With that being said, I'm also going to give you talk about some things that you can do to better prepare yourself and give to the correct organizations. The correct organizations that we're going to see at the end is the one that I'm going to try to persuade you to look into, and that is the Toys for Tots organizations. But with that being said, I'd like to move on and understand a little bit about the organizations that we're going to be speaking about and how to better do some research onto it. There's a lot of great resources out there. We live in a world that is very quickly evolving, and we have a great database called the internet. A lot of great resources out on the internet to be able to pick and choose which one you want to look into. One of those websites is charity.org. With charity.org, it gives individuals the knowledge of expenses and what the organization uses as far as monetary value on their expense and how to market their organization. This is vital. As you're going to see here later in a few minutes, you're going to see the differences between the good organizations and the bad organizations when it comes to money management. Another great charity website is NASCO.org. NASCO.org actually gives the individual who is donating the database to every single registered charity out there, and it's actually fantastic. I encourage you to go look into it if you want to, so you can actually be better prepared to give next time you're preparing to give to organization. Another thing that a lot of people don't look into is volunteering their time. A lot of times people get wrapped up around the money value. And money is great. These organizations need the money, but what about your time? Especially the smaller ones, it could be vital. With that being said, charities. Let's talk about some of the bad ones before we actually start looking into the good ones that I want to present to you later on. Kids Wish Network. Sounds great. Kids, great name. However, when you start looking into the Kids Wish Network, for every dollar that you actually start providing this organization, for every dollar, 3 cents actually goes into a charitable contribution. 97 cents of every dollar goes back into the organization, whether that's marketing, and as you can see here in a second, not necessarily marketing. Kids Wish Network has actually been accused of circulating through different accounting firms $110 million in the past 10 years. That's $110 million of your money. With that being said, also their founder has been found to have circulated $4.8 million in payments to him. Again, that's a lot of money. That's your money going into an organization that doesn't really deserve it, in my opinion. Now let's talk about an organization that does deserve it. Let's talk about the Marine Corps Toys for Tots organization. That is something that I hold, like I said in the beginning, something that I hold very tight to my heart because I've actually been part of the organization. And I'd like to share some of the things that have happened to me while I have been in the organization. First of all, let's talk a little bit about the expenses versus contribution. For every dollar that you donate to the Marine Corps Toys for Tots program, 97 cents goes back into the kids, or a charitable donation back to the kids. That's 3 cents that goes back into marketing for the organization. So why is it such a difference? Well, for one, Marines free labor. We all volunteer our time for the organizations. We don't need to be paid. The military pays us not too well, but it does pay us, so that we don't have to take away money from the organization, and in reality take away from the kids to pay us. So that's fantastic in itself. So 97 cents goes back to the kids compared to 97 cents that goes back into the organization. Some of the other ones that I have proposed or talked about in the past. Now, I'd like to share something that I thought was a phenomenal experience on my end, and I would love to share it with you. In 2012 was when the first time that I actually was able to get myself involved with the organization. I was actually stationed in Eglin Air Force Base doing EOD school. It was a great experience, and we all got into our dress blues and uniforms, and we actually stood in front of some of the toy stores. There was one kid that walked in. It was him, his dad, and his mom. When they walked into the toys store, and the mom comes afterwards, and she gives us some pretty nice toys for the organization. She starts talking to me, and she told me that when they walked into the store, one of the kids actually said, "Mom, buy me something that's a little bit less expensive so I can buy a couple more toys and give them to the Marines for the kids that are more in need." I thought that was fantastic. It was such a great experience and such a great experience being able to give to these kids and actually make a difference in the community. I thought it was phenomenal. With that being said, I would like for you to actually start looking into some of these organizations and see how important the Toys for Tots can be for these kids. It will be a phenomenal thing for you to actually help not only myself and all these kids, but help the organization. As you can see, choosing the right organization does not have to be something that's very difficult. I would like for you to look into it. And overall, I think that if you start looking into the organization and see how important it is and how to help these kids, you're going to be able to give more money into organizations. Imagine being able to help establish one smile for these kids that are more in need.